We are a rock and roll camp for girls. We're a nonprofit, and we basically use music education to promote self-esteem in girls. I think that if it hadn't been for my experience in my band, I wouldn't have really realized the necessity for something like a rock camp for girls. Part of that came along because I was working for my entire life to get over stage fright, to get over thinking that I had to be perfect at my instrument before I could join a band or play a show on stage. And so working up against all of that and then, triumphing and playing on stage, and then people didn't really care. There wasn't enough celebration of just bravery. And that's from a personal standpoint, but then I was noticing it with other people too. It's like, why aren't we just cheering for the fact that there's a woman up there?
I feel like record collecting for a long time was kind of a male-dominated thing. I think just because when people started collecting records in like the 60s and the 70s, women were still getting their footing and finding their way, and I think a lot of women maybe didn't want to collect records or get really nerdy about records because it was all music made by men, for men, about men, like from a male perspective. So
we were experiencing so much sexism, and there were so many men and like no women. I'm like, wait, what? Where am I right now? Like this doesn't feel like I'm in Seattle. It sort of feels like you're stepping into this whole other world. So I would kind of say that the scene that is the Seattle music scene, maybe not like the scene that I exist in the tiny corner of the world, is pretty male dominated. But my particular scene, who I hang out with, it's mostly women. Almost, maybe like 98% women. But that's because I've sort of created a community where it's specifically women who play music.
And it's kind of a boys' club, like if there's a bunch of dudes that love records and love talking about records, maybe they're not going to include you in that conversation, and they want to talk to other dudes about records, and then you just feel like, well, if they don't want me to be a part of their world, then I don't want to be a part of their world, and
so it's like, okay, you decide what you want to play, and it's 5th grade, so you get to choose what are you going to do in band. And I remember I said, oh, I want to play trumpet. And the lady was like, I can't believe that this is true, but it's true. She said, the girls don't play trumpet, the girls play clarinet or flute. And I like question myself all the time. I'm like, did she really say that? But like, it is a very specific memory. This is in the 1990s, like this is not 1950. She said, no, you should try the flute or clarinet. And it was for that very particular reason that I'm like, no, I'm playing trumpet. My sister does it. You're telling me that I shouldn't, and I think that I should.
It's like maybe I don't want to own, everything by Pink Floyd or whatever. It doesn't speak to me directly, but like after that period, it's like 60s and 70s, the women really came up, and then more albums were being put out by women, and then I feel like now women can go back and collect all these records by women that they love, and then get into other bands and other artists and male artists or whatever.
So Sleater-Kinney, hands down, took me into the rock arena. It was the first rock and roll show that I'd seen women play, and it was like something clicked. It was like, oh, I could be one of them. I can do that. So it really took seeing them playing live to really realize that I can be in a rock and roll band as me. I don't have to be like Madonna or Whitney or Mariah. And they were all like fully clothed. Like they, I thought they were super sexy, but in a different way than I'd seen sexy being played out before. So I was like, oh, I can relate to this. Like,
as long as you go into a situation confident in who you are and what your strengths are, what you're good at, what you can do, and not focus on what you aren't good at or what you can't do, I think people appreciate that and respect you. And I feel like I definitely have that at Sonic Boom. Like my the guy who owns the store puts a lot of trust in me. He's always given me a lot of freedom to make big decisions, and I never felt questioned or like I wasn't as good as a male counterpart, which has happened at other jobs.
We've been doing a little bit of independent research on our own of sort of the gender breakdown of the different large music festivals. And Sasquatch last year was 12% women on stage. So you look at the total number of performers and the total number of women, and it was 12%. And then we looked at Coachella this year, and it was also 12%. So you'd hope that, like, oh, we've got all these rock camps coming up, like every year it'll get a little bit better. At the community that, you know, we're helping to build at Rain City Rock Camp, sort of our idea is to put ourselves out of business, that we don't need to exist to show girls what they can be in rock and roll, because they see it everywhere. And part of why they're seeing it everywhere is because rock camps are helping girls to feel like they can play music, and they're playing music, and then they're everywhere. But if our community continues to grow, then I feel like there'll be more people just playing music together in collaborations, and, you know, just getting up on stage. So yeah, the whole city will be playing music together. And I don't care. I don't think that's too many bands, you know? And then there'll be the people who are like, oh, there's too many bands. Oh, everyone's in a band. Yes, I hope so. That's what we're trying to do. So get mad at us then. That's what we've succeeded, then you can blame us.